All right, here we go again. It is another wonderful morning. Getting ready to get out and do the thing. I was watching videos about the difficulties of job searching, which is interesting because I thought that the job market was pretty well open. Did I forgot my lunch. Well, at least I remembered now and not after having gotten further away. So I'm gonna go grab my lunch. I'll be right back. I wonder if you guys can hear me all the way in the house or not. I'm about to test the range of my wireless mic. I put my lunch in a little container. I usually put it in a bag, but I was like, I'm just doing one slice of lasagna. I don't think I need to take the whole bag this time. But I forgot the whole thing in the house. So, but it's a good thing that I remembered now. I was getting ready to leave, and I was like, hey, wait, I don't have my lunch. And a day without lunch is not a good day. I could always just go to the cafeteria and get lunch, but I don't like to spend unnecessary money on food. Anywho, yeah, they were talking about how difficult it is to find a job in today's market, which I found to be interesting because in recent memories, it seemed like every business everywhere was hiring, and they were all very desperate to get people in positions. And so to go from that to an instance where now all of a sudden these jobs have filled and it's once again difficult to get employees, it's an interesting concept, if you will. It's something that I feel very out of touch with because it still doesn't seem like that would be the case to me, but I also don't disbelieve it either, if that makes sense. And so it's just an interesting kind of position that we're in, because we went from the Great Resignation where everybody was leaving their jobs to find better jobs, or everybody was leaving the workforce to explore other horizons. It's interesting with YouTube and the different internet-based companies, if you want to call them that. They're creating different job opportunities that in the world before the internet were not even like conceptualized. And so the idea that we live in this world where being an online presence is a viable option for people trying to go into the workforce is a very interesting thing to be in. And it's interesting for me, as someone who has seen YouTube from birth to what it is now, to understand like where it has gone or where it has developed. Because I remember, and I'm not saying that I was factually correct in this remembering, but I remember when I was in probably late middle school, early high school, somewhere around there, I can remember there being very few paid YouTube members, and it was a big deal if you were on YouTube and you were getting paid to do YouTube, and it was seen as this level of superstardom, like you were famous just for your YouTube work. And now that is much more commonplace. And so it's interesting for me to kind of see how YouTube has evolved in that regards, and be like, you know what? It was once upon a time a very rare thing for YouTubers to get paid, and now it is far less rare of a thing. But like the payments, contrary to what we might think that they are are not these astronomical payments. It's something that maybe can replace your regular day-to-day job, but it's not something that you're going to necessarily get rich from. Like, most of the YouTubers who are wealthy because of YouTube are wealthy because they have their irons and multiple fires, and they're doing a lot more than just cranking out videos anymore. And so it's interesting how it's gone from this, like, oh my gosh, there is these 3 people on YouTube that they're actually getting paid to do YouTube, and then now, like, there's an entire community of people on YouTube who are getting paid to do YouTube, but it no longer has this kind of celebrity mantra. It's just like, this is my job. Like, just like my job is maybe to flip burgers at McDonald's, their job is to upload content that gets viewers. And it's lucrative in its schedule and the nature of its work, but it's also not so lucrative in its lack of benefits and its lack of guaranteed income. And so it's certainly an interesting thing to think about as I watch these videos on how difficult it is to find jobs these days, or whatever the struggle might be. And one of the exhausting things that they pointed out, and like 2 videos that I've seen recently now have pointed this out, and it's starting to really ring true to me, is like, so with that video they're talking about the idea of filling out these applications and going through that process only to be largely ignored by the employer. And it's exhausting and feels terrible, because that is like, you put all this effort into something to get literally nothing out of it. And then I was watching another video about a gentleman who writes books, and he was saying basically the same thing, that he puts all this effort into his books only to feel like he's getting nothing out of it, and just how draining and exhausting that can be. And it more or less summarizes how I currently am and how I currently feel about the adventures that I'm putting out there, or that I'm going out on, because I am doing all of these things to try and get out into the world, only for them to go largely unnoticed. And it is very difficult for me to continue to bang my head against that proverbial wall without feeling like I have just completely fumbled up the whole thing or whatever. And the writer said that it's important that you write stories for you, and that you're not writing them for an audience. And a lot of creatives adopt that ideology, the ideology that you create for yourself, and if other people find it interesting, then great, but if they don't, then kind of whatever, I guess. And that ideology is a nice ideology, I think, to get you through the hard parts, but it's not a realistic one. Like, create for yourself, yes, you should create content that you find engaging and that you find cool and that you like, because if you're not creating something that you like, then how can you expect other people to like it? But to the same end, you should also like be aiming to make your content like spread its wings and to fly away, because it's never going to do anything if you just let it sit there and die, so to speak. And so it's this weird balance between like, hey, I am going to make all this content and throw it out there in the world for people to experience and see if they like, and just going to make it for myself, versus I'm going to make it for myself, but I'm also going to try and make it for other people so that it can be more well liked. I don't know. It's a challenging it's a challenging balancing act to have, and obviously, like, we all just wish for that moment when we finally break through but we all also live with the fear of not ever breaking through. I'm now a whole month into this uploading every day schedule, and my videos are not being seen by more than 10 people each release, if that sometimes. And that is incredibly disheartening, to be putting this much effort and this much force towards something to be getting literally nothing in return. Like, my videos are not being seen by a single person on some occasions, and that's rough. And like the Instagram Reels game, I've largely abandoned that as well, because I just don't have the inspiration. Like, I have an idea of what I want to do on that platform, but now that I have an idea, I can't like foster it, if that makes sense. Anytime I'm so much into music that anytime I'm watching something or playing a game or whatever they indirectly make a music reference, I'm always having a good time with that or whatever. But so that was going to be my Instagram thing, is I was going to, all these shows or games or whatever that unintentionally make music references, I was going to point out their music references, and that was going to be my meme, so to speak. And now that I have settled with that, I can't find any instances of it happening. And so it's exhausting, and it's not conducive to productivity. I have like a 3-month advertisement campaign that I'm raring up to launch, and hopefully I can get some attention there and get some people noticing me and my work. But it's not been very successful, and I don't know. It's very difficult for me to fully understand and to fully appreciate what I have going on, and hoping that it turns into something is a very weak motivator to keep creating. And at this point, with the YouTube videos, I've caught up pretty close to where I am in real time, and I had a feeling that would happen once I got up to coming back from vacation, because vacation was a whole week and a half's worth of content gap. And then after that, I had whenever I picked that back up or whatever. But it's just interesting to me that I'm still able to maintain being as ahead of schedule as I am, but I really wish that I could continue to progress forwards. And like, ultimately, I wish that I could start seeing some sort of like kickback from it. Like, can people start paying attention to my content instead of it just falling on deaf ears? And so, it's tough, because you, as the creator, or at least for me, I am my biggest critic. And so now, and I always have this struggle, but it's like, is my content even worth the time? Like, is that why no one's paying attention to it? Is it just good old-fashioned bad content? Or is it just that no one's seeing it? Or is it that the wrong people are seeing it, or not the right people have seen it yet? There's so many if factors that I think it becomes more comfortable to create just for the sake of yourself and your own creations, because then you don't have to worry about whether or not the whole world finds it interesting. If you find it interesting, and if you find it worth your time, then the rest of the world will follow. And that's not necessarily how that goes, but it's at least a better way to go about content creation. And I hope that I reach a point where people are paying attention and people are engaging. But it's like, what do I do if I don't? And do I let the working world rule my roost, so to speak, which is honestly a terrible idea. I do not like it one bit, but I have yet to find a way out, and that is what I've been striving for. And that's part of the reason why I put so much time and effort into these videos and into the content that I create and the books and everything. Is the goal is to find a way out. I don't want to be working this 9-to-5 grind forever. No one necessarily wants to, but very few people are willing to put in the work and effort to get out of it. And here I am putting in the work and effort, and I feel like I'm getting little to nothing for it. And comparisons are always nice, but with a kick in the head at sometimes. And I have someone else who is doing a lot of creative stuff around the same time as me, and they have naturally acquired 10,000 subscribers. They had one of their videos blow up to like well over 1 million views, and then I sometimes see their new content come out, and they're not getting these egregious amount of views every time they watch it. Like, they might get like a small amount of views and likes, but it makes me feel better about myself. I think original content is still fruitful in the social media market. You almost have to balance it. Like, I looked up recently how frequently people upload to YouTube or to Instagram Reels, and they said 2 to 3 times a week, which is far less than what I'd been doing. And so I'm thinking about dialing my Instagram schedule back to 2 to 3 times a week, and then making them more pointed contact, like maybe 2 original posts and 1 popular audio or something of that nature. Looking back at like my historical performance, I think most of my original videos have done better than the videos that have the recycled sounds. And maybe it's just a matter of getting lucky and finding people who are finding the right sound, or maybe there is something more to it. I don't know. But playing the social media game is not my favorite thing in the world. I don't even, realistically speaking, like social media all that much. If I weren't trying to promote myself, I wouldn't be on it. And part of me feels like that affects my creativity in the matter. Like, if I were just glowing on social media and posting stuff because I just love to do it, then maybe I would have a bit better of an experience on here. But if I'm posting stuff literally for the sake of trying to blow up, then it's just going to create a perpetual cycle of hatred. And so that's why I was excited when I finally found my brand of content. I was like, I know what I'm going to do on here. I'm always watching movies, TV shows, playing games, and they unintentionally make these music references, and I'm always calling them out. And that was going to be my thing. That was what I was going to do. Problem is, now that I've decided that that's the case, I've not run into any of those references in anything that I've watched and or played here recently. And so now I'm just stuck trying to find content, and that's definitely not a good place to be. You don't want to be literally digging for something to create. It's like you want your content to come to you naturally and to feel like a natural part of your creative process. And so if you're digging around like a fiend trying to find something, that's not good either. And so I feel like these videos have been thwarted with negativity and a lack of confidence, and I'm hoping that at some point in time we can turn that around and turn it into something that isn't that, and hopefully that day comes. But until then, like, the whole point of this was just to talk about what's on my mind as I drive to work, and hope that there's people out there who will listen. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know at this point, but we will soon find out. Thank you all for stopping by per the usual, and I will see you guys next time.